Welcome to the Casual Author Podcast. I'm Dan, sci-fi and fantasy author. Like you, I've got a lot on my plate. What with many children, a full-time job, a homestead, and loads of other responsibilities. I'm here to bring you inspiration, positivity, and community around having a busy life and still wanting to chase that author dream, even if you have to take a casual approach. For more information about the podcast, me, or my books, head to thecasualauthor.com. Let's get started. Hey there, it's Dan Kenner with episode number 128 of the podcast. Today is Monday, July 15th, 2024, as I record this. And today we're talking to Mr. Pixel 8 Books about how to connect with your audience and give them what they're looking for in a way to, meet their needs and their expectations. He writes middle grade books themed around Minecraft. We talk about how he engages with his community and, of course, adjusts his writing accordingly to meet their expectations and needs. It's a really interesting conversation, particularly for someone like myself who still is building my community. I don't have a massive community, but I'm obviously trying to find those who are interested in the types of things that I write. And yeah, this was a really fun conversation. And middle grade is fun. I've written middle grade, not as much as him, but I could connect with him in that way. So you want to stick around for that conversation. It's very helpful. I think you will enjoy that. So, in news, I'm going to say news because everything is kind of a conglomeration of craziness currently. As you know, tomorrow is July 16th, which coincidentally is my birthday, but it's also the due date of our baby. So, the fact that I'm still here attests to the baby not being born yet, which, it is what it is. Obviously, you can't plan for these things. Our situation is a little bit different than most people because we don't have to get into the history of it all. I'm happy to, but, it's kind of perhaps a little bit TMI for some people. My wife cannot be induced, so we just wait it out and see what happens. Last baby we had was actually born on her due date, so if that's the case, then he'll come tomorrow, and I'll have a birthday buddy, which will be kind of interesting. I have no issues with that. It's just kind of funny how that all panned out, how that played out. But yeah, we're still here. So in news updates, the homestead is just plugging along. We have been figuring out the best way to get into the flow of things. So now that we have a cow that we take out every morning to graze and bring back in the afternoon when it gets super hot, it's just about trying to be as efficient as possible. So we have 5 acres where we live in Idaho, and it's not laid out the most efficient in the world, and that's fine. Obviously, I can't change the way our property is organized, but it's very long and narrow. And so you can imagine all of the fields are at the back of this property, which is, near, it's probably three-fourths of a mile, not three-fourths of a mile, excuse me, near a half a mile long. And there's just lots of walking. So whenever I have to water it, I'm walking 10, 12 miles a day, going back and forth, checking the water and everything. So the further out we take her to graze, the longer it takes to get her out there and come back every day. It's been interesting trying to figure that out because chores did not used to take more than maybe 40 minutes in the morning. Now they're starting to take about an hour or more, depending on all the things, little things we have to do. Our kids do help. They love to help and they've got all their jobs, but it's just a lot of different places to walk and a lot of things to do. So we're still trying to figure out the flow for that. Also, our chickens are being naughty, for lack of a better term. So uh, we have moved our chickens. We have this netting fencing that we take out. It's electric to try and keep them in and predators out. We've moved that so that the idea is they will rotate behind Ginger, the cow. So, when Ginger poops and when she pees and she drops all of that fertile, rich stuff on the ground, it's best to spread it out as much as you can. And so, one strategy is you let the chickens follow behind and they'll scratch into it. They'll eat all of the larvae of the flies so that there won't be a lot of flies. It's a good fly management system, but they're not being good. They're escaping the fence. It's hard to find all the little cracks that they're slipping through, slipping under. And that's a problem because it's when it's like 98, 99 degrees outside, they need water and they need food and they need shade. And so when they escape the fence, we've had some issues with them not figuring out how to get back in. And so as fast as I can try to be, they're way far out in the back of our property. I'm not always fast enough to get out there and get them back in before they dehydrate. So we've actually had a couple chickens die, unfortunately, because they keep escaping. So I'm trying to figure out how are they escaping? I've, tucked things down, I've stapled things to the ground or, staked them to the ground. I don't think they're flying over because I've been watching and I haven't seen any fly. But yeah, it's kind of tricky. We haven't lost too many, but we also have some, and so we're getting fewer eggs than we used to. Hopefully, more of them start staying in. Hopefully, we see cooler days in the future. And if they escape, hopefully, they can figure out how to get back in. So, all that is to say, and once again, the chaos of everything, when the baby's born, trying to manage everything, I'll have to be driving to and from the hospital, take care of our animals and everything, because getting a babysitter for the kids is easier than getting a babysitter for the animals. But unfortunately, it's not too far away. It shouldn't be a big issue. Still, just want to keep an eye on everything to make sure everybody's okay. Other than that, from a homestead perspective, just plugging along, trying to find new homes for the babies. They're still a little bit too small. We had someone come take a look at them and they were hoping for some bigger goats. So no luck on that front, but maybe we'll find some new homes for them soon. Yeah, no other updates. We're doing really good. Our garden's growing and we're happy with everything. We try and get out as much as we can in the morning when it's still cool. Afternoon's been a little bit too hot. But in terms of author news this week, I'm doing really well on editing Dragon Blooded, so I'm pretty happy with that. I'm about 70% of the way through it. I have also scheduled the copy editor, so she will start copy editing that at the beginning of August. That gives me plenty of time to go through my last round of edits and deliver it to her. So if you're hoping to, get early access to this book, you can access it on Ream already. That's reamstories.com/Dan Kenner. That's, the edited version. I'll try and keep that up to date as much as possible. Or if you'd like to be an ARC reader, an advanced reader, just send me an email, dan@thecasualauthor.com. Would love to work with you. Or, yeah, just let me know. I'm happy to send that your way in probably about a month and a half. Near the end of August is most likely when I'll be sending those out, which gives the ARC readers about a month to read them in preparation for September 24th, which is the publish date. So I'm happy to actually have a publish date in the books. It's not something I'm usually very good at setting just because I play things by ear. Things shift and change accordingly. But I think I'm to a pretty comfortable place. Everything is almost done. The last piece is really the copy editing. I've been messing with the cover, figuring out how to make it look better, and I'm getting pretty close to it looking really good. There were some blurry elements on it that I've had to fix up, and then the text was a bit hidden in some places. And it's a steep learning curve, but fortunately, I have some other authors who do make their own covers, and they've been extremely helpful in figuring this out. And then it's back to writing. So I'm really excited to get back into writing. Editing is just a drain on my mental resources. I really struggle to feel motivated to do it, even though it's never that bad. Every time I get into it, it's like, oh, this wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. But it's just forcing my brain to dive into something that isn't quite as exciting as discovery writing. So in line with discovery writing, I do want to highlight an episode of The Creative Pen that just came out today as I'm recording this, July 15th. It is episode number 761, and that is titled, make sure I get it correct, Intuitive Discovery Writing in Serial Fiction with Kim-Boo York. So the reason I'm mentioning this episode is because it was geared a lot towards discovery writers. This author that Joanna was speaking with, Kim-Boo, was very adamant that discovery writing isn't a fallback and it's actually a strategy. And it's something that I really resonated with because a lot of people look at discovery writing and she was speaking about this in the episode and see it as well, you've tried plotting and you're not good at it, so you fell back on discovery writing, or it's kind of a last resort because everything else is failing. And that's not how I view it. I just know myself, and I've learned the couple times I've tried to plot, it just doesn't feel right. It doesn't resonate with me. It's not how I write because it's not exciting to me. And I've just accepted that. To me, it is a strategy. It is the right strategy for me, and it works for me. I've been able to publish and write a lot of books that have been exceptional. I've had a lot of people read them and be in awe that they were discovery written because of how all the pieces slid together. I can't describe how my brain works. It just works that way. And I'm not going to question it. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. And it's a strategy. And she goes a lot into that. But then she talks about intuition. She talks about how to, do what makes sense and feels right to you. It was just a really great episode. If you are a discovery writer or if you're a plotter and you're curious to know what goes into the mind of a discovery writer, I definitely recommend that episode. So highly useful for myself where I am today. But aside from that, yeah, really just moving forward. One thing I failed to mention, I did finally hear back I say that, I don't mean that negatively. It sounded so negative when I just said that. But we did hear back from Writers of the Future for the submission that I put in for Q1. That story was called Between Life and Death. So it was kind of a modern urban fantasy that I've never written before. I got another honorable mention, which I'm very grateful for. Keep in mind this this competition is less for me an opportunity to win anything. While I would appreciate the funds that you get for winning, and there's other workshops and things that you get. For me, it's more of an accountability thing. I like to write short stories, and I like to be held accountable for that. So because there's a hard deadline at the end of each quarter, it keeps me writing those short stories. Otherwise, I probably wouldn't because, there's not a lot to do there. And so far, I mean, I've had decent results. I've discovery written all of them, done very minimal editing on them, and still managed to get an honorable mention here or there. So no complaints. I think I do need to, kick myself in the high gear and get better at editing. Maybe they might go further, my stories, I mean by they, but we'll see. I'll keep working on that and seeing if I can improve that. In any case, Pro Writing Aid has been super useful to me. I know I've mentioned this before, but if you don't have a system, an AI system to help check grammar and spelling and duplicated sentences and repeated words and things like that, definitely AutoCrit's one of them. Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid. I personally like Pro Writing Aid because I work in Scrivener, and it's very helpful because I can just upload my Scrivener document and work from there. I don't have to convert it to anything else or copy paste it anywhere. So I appreciate that. Works very well for me. That was not a sponsored post. I'm just pointing out that it's very helpful because grammar is always lost to me. So if you're like me, it's going to be worth your time and money. And there's a lifetime option. So if you don't like subscribing to something, you can always just pay the one-time cost and you have it forever with updates and everything. It may be worth your time. Other than that, as you know, I did start a Patreon for The Casual Author. So, one thing that I want to point out is this podcast was primarily started for myself. I started it as a way to connect with other authors and as a way to, get to other authors, help other authors feel that they're not alone. We're all experiencing a lot of the similar things and to answer any questions a newer or experienced author might have about publishing and writing. There's so many different ways that we can work, and this podcast helps bring all of that together. But I do want to point out that this is kind of a testament to my voice. This is a testament to what I like to write and what I like to do. So I hope as you're listening to this, this is something that you enjoy, uh, not just for the learning aspects, but, as a way to hear what goes on in the mind of a busy casual author and a discovery writer. And I want to make sure that I can connect with you. So if you have any feedback for me, if you have any thoughts, definitely just let me know at dan@thecasualauthor.com, or you can comment on the show notes. You can comment on the YouTube channel or Spotify, wherever. Let me know what you think. If you want to hear more of something, I'm happy to find other authors who might be able to provide insight on a specific subject that you're interested in. Or, of course, in the Patreon. If you want to support the show, it's just a couple dollars a month. I also put out a monthly Q&A episode every month. The last one just went out last week. And at the beginning of each month, you will get a new one. So if you have questions for that Q&A, let me know via email or anywhere, and I'm happy to bring them in and answer any questions, even if it's more specific about things like why my wife can't have an induced birth. Yeah, happy to answer any questions. Obviously, I can change what I want privacy wise, but most things I'm pretty open to talk about. So just want to make sure it's in the right place at the right time. And I'm not sure this podcast is the right thing for that conversation. Let's see. I believe that is everything in terms of updates this week. So we can go ahead and shift over to the conversation with Mr. Pixel 8 Books. Hey, Mr. Pixel 8, how are you doing today?
I'm doing quite well. How about yourself?
Doing very well. I'm always impressed with the getup that you have, that any authors have, and you've got quite the display for your books.
Yep. I
So it's
like
looking
the
very good.
this is for when I go to conventions because I love being able to talk to people in person. It's very eye-catching. And
It
we go to
is.
my kids' school and do like the Halloween party and stuff. We'll set it up there
Mm.
too and give out bookmarks and stuff like that. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, the kids love that. Before we get into all the fun stuff, though, how long have you been writing and publishing?
Since 2000 is when I first started,
Nice.
and it is kind of a weird story. I was in restaurant sales in
Okay.
Washington State, And I don't know if you know what happened with COVID in Washington State, but they shut down all the restaurants. So I was effectively out of a career for 2 years, and I had just finished a book that I put out because of NaNoWriMo.
Hmm.
And that book did very well. It wasn't in the same genre I currently write in. It did very well. And when I lost my career, my wife and I were sitting here thinking I was able to get unemployment because everything was gone. So we thought, well, maybe we should take this time and try something different. So we started writing kids' books and they took off. And I'm still doing it today. And I haven't had to go back into sales, which is nice.
That is very cool. That's awesome. A lot of authors dream of that.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
COVID loss turning into a blessing
Yep.
in
It
the
really
end,
was.
which
Yeah.
is great. So how many books to date have you published then?
Uh, Over 65.
Okay.
Um,
Very, I don't expect an exact number. I think that's
yeah.
perfect. Some people count on their fingers because I think that's awesome. So they're generally in the kind of Minecraft, is it middle grade space? Is that then where you're
Yep,
writing?
8 to 12 year olds is who I write for. And I actually do have a trilogy out under my adult name, my actual name, RK Biliu. And that was the first set of books that I wrote that got me into writing. It was a trilogy that I wrote for NaNoWriMo. But then my son, who was 8 at the time, it was like trying to get him to read was pulling teeth. He'd rather like slam his book shut and go do the dishes than read anymore. So my wife and I sat down and thought, this writing thing's fun. We're having a great time with it and we're making money. Let's try and write something that my son would actually want to read. So he was really into Minecraft at the time. So we sat down as a family. I've got 5 kids, and we went over names and plot ideas and story ideas and everything. So as a family, we came up with this whole thing, and we started writing the Accidental Minecraft family. And my son started reading, and the book started selling.
That's perfect. It's just because
Yeah.
he was reading that they were selling. Let's be
Hey,
honest, right?
that's what I'm going to chalk it up to. And now he's a voracious reader. So I'm very happy about the way things turned out.
No, I love that. I think reading as a kid is one thing that I always read tons as a kid,
Yeah.
and that's what we want for our kids as well. So far, they've all proven, all the ones that are reading today, to be interested in reading. But how did you know what to write specifically for that age group, since you hadn't written for it before you started?
Um, I didn't know
You
actually. I
didn't.
was
Okay.
just, yeah, I had no clue. I know my wife and I sat down and we decided we really wanted to write a story for reluctant readers. So it wasn't going to have a ton of big words. The first book is only 12,000 words, so
Okay.
it's really short. But it doesn't have a ton of big words. And the big words that it does have, we specifically wrote context clues around it so that a kid would be able to read through and understand what the words meant just by the context that they were reading in. And then we also have larger spacing between the lines and larger spacing between the actual words so that it's easier for kids to get into. We've since gone past that now, and our books don't have a lot of that. They are still a little bit easier to read, but I found that the kids that read my books, I've got 18-year-olds still reading them, which kind of
Yeah.
blows my mind a little bit. So we had to kind of find some parity on the reading levels of bringing it up a bit, but I still have tons of readers of every age range getting in. But I didn't know anything about writing for kids, not even a little bit. So I just did my best, and it turned out that it worked really well. And I'm very sarcastic and humorous in my
Hmm.
normal life. I mean, my wife doesn't think I'm quite as humorous as I like to think I am, but it came out that way in the books, and the kids seem to love it.
Oh, that's totally a kid thing. My kids that are in that age group love the sarcasm, the silliness. They love that type of stuff. So I guarantee that my son would appreciate it as well. So how did you keep going with it, right? Did you just adjust over time as your books were selling? You saw what kind of stuck and what didn't, and you just followed the pathway in that way as you wrote these 60 books, 65 plus books.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's kind of interesting. Around book 4 of the Accidental Minecraft family, which this is the
Mm.
first book in the
Hmm.
series. Around book 4, we started getting so many reviews and kids leaving like weird notes and stuff in the reviews that we implemented something called the Codex of Seeds, where the characters in the book found a book when they were fishing, that has little short stories in it, and those short stories were things that kids were writing in our reviews. And so I'd actually give them a little bit of, like the spotlight on something that one of our fans had written. And so now at the back of every one of our books, we have the Codex of Seeds that shows short stories from the kids and Q&A and all that kind of stuff. And based off of that, we kind of used what the feedback we were getting to like make our books a little bit more advanced, develop the plot line a little more, give them what they want and what they were looking for.
It's very cool. I mean, what a great idea that just came to you. You feel like you're a very salesy person. I can tell that. And
Yes.
I'm unsurprised to hear that you were in sales. Just have that personality, which is awesome. So you feel like that lent a lot to your beginning of this author career?
Yeah, absolutely. Wanting to give back to the fans was a big part of it, and they were asking, hey, could we see this kind of a plot line
Mm,
or and so we would take that and not necessarily incorporate their ideas into our actual plot because we did have an overarching plot already figured out, but we would take elements and kind of throw them in and really give back to what they were asking for. That's kind of what spawned later on down the line our second series, Hatchamob,
mm-hmm.
which it's a Minecraft and Pokemon kind of crossover thing, where the characters in it have they take mobs from Minecraft and they give them a magical berry that gives them elemental powers, and then they go off and they battle each other, and there's leagues and competitions and all that kind of stuff. Because we were getting so many kids in our original story, the Accidental Minecraft Family, leaving reviews saying, "I would love to see you do some Pokemon stuff," and so that kind of bred into the other series that we write, which is now my most popular series.
Really, the Hatch Mob is now.
Yeah, yeah, it is.
Fascinating.
It's I think one reason it's more popular is it is a little bit more advanced. I'd say it's probably for 10 to 12-year-olds or 8-year-olds that are advanced readers. And it has a little bit more depth in the storyline.
Mm,
There's some more subplots that go on. It's not just like the people battling like you'd see in a Pokemon or a show, but they're the main protagonist Ellie. Her parents have been kidnapped by an evil king, so she meets up with a rebel organization, and they go off and they have to like try and depose the king. And so there's a whole deep storyline in addition to all of the Pokemon style elements with the monsters battling each other and fighting off wild Pokemon, and it's a lot of fun.
sounds straight out from the game.
Yeah.
I mean, you managed to take two very popular things for that age group and smush them together. I mean, my son is obsessed with Minecraft and Pokemon, coincidentally, those very two things. So,
That's
uh,
exactly why we came up with the series.
makes absolute sense. So, I'm curious to know from like a feedback perspective, because you keep mentioning, or reviewers keep saying X, or people keep asking for Y. So, as you're communicating, what methods have you been using to communicate with your readers? Do you have like an email list that you engage with, or is it just from reading
So
Amazon reviews? Where are you
that's a
getting this?
that's kind of a tough one because we're adults and we're communicating with kids.
Right,
So
exactly.
it's kind of a tough, situation. We
Hmm.
do have a business email address that kids send email and fan art and that kind of stuff to us, and we get a lot of that. We have a business PO box, which doesn't get a lot of use. And then we have a Discord channel, but that Discord channel was created by fans. So I'm an admin on it, but I don't own the channel. It's actually owned by another fan. And we do have a newsletter, but the newsletter, we're really not good at sending them out as often as we need to. But once again, it's kids, so our demographic, a lot of them don't even have email addresses.
Right.
So the majority of our communication comes through the back of the book stuff, the Q&A.
Hmm.
We always write a little story at the end of every book about, what's going on in our lives, how things are going. We just went on a camping trip. Here's some pictures of our pets, that kind of stuff. So we really wanted to build that relational moment with the kids so that they're not just reading our book, they're reading our book and they're loving Pixelate books, they're loving Mr. Pixelate and hearing about the mini Pixelates, our kids. So we try to build that relationship through the back of our book content.
That's very cool. I just have to ask because I'm curious. Is the
Yeah.
Accidental Minecraft family based off of your family or is it unrelated?
No, it
Completely.
is. So
Okay, it is.
I have 5 kids, but the the Accidental Minecraft family. It's a mom, a dad, a brother, a sister, and a cat. And they
Okay.
all wake up in Minecraft one day. The parents don't know anything about Minecraft, so the kids get to run the show for a bit.
Oh boy.
Um, and the mom and dad are very much based off of us. And the two kids, Jack and Kate, are an amalgamation of all of our kids put together. And the cat, his name is Bruce Lee, the Scarface Ninja attack kitty from Japan who smells like poop. He is actually based off of a real cat that had that name. And he had worms when we got him as a kitten, so he was constantly
Mm,
letting out gas.
yep.
So there comes the name. And they're definitely based off of us, which is kind of funny because in some of our reviews, we get things like, this book is great, but I don't know if I can recommend it because they stick to such cultural norms of moms and dads. And I'm like, well, the mom is based off of my wife. It's basically her in book form. So, it's kind of funny when we see that kind of stuff. But yeah, they're based off of us.
Well, I mean, that's one thing. The way you said that, as well as your reference to older people liking your books. Thing is, unfortunately, we can't make our books for everyone. So,
Exactly.
I mean, people will enjoy them, people won't, and that's fine. Everyone's allowed to dislike or like things as they please. So,
Yep. Yep.
um, but it's very interesting to hear. It's great that you have day-to-day content that you're gaining from living with your children, being with your wife, and just, experiencing life, going on camping trips. I'm sure that gives you plenty of book ideas.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I'm curious to know about the process for your books because first of all, to hear that you wrote your first book and it's 12,000 words, I have a problem. I'm incapable of writing short stuff. That's just my own
Yeah.
problem. The shortest short story I've ever written, I think, is 17,000, and that was just a one scene short story. So I'm always impressed with people that can write a full book in such a short number of words, something I need to work on. But from the process standpoint, does Mrs. Pixelate write some of the books as well, or is she mainly from like the artistic and marketing perspective aiding you
So
with this stuff?
we are a team. I write the books and then she edits them. So she does all
Mm,
my editing, developmental and line editing. We have a
nice.
proofreader who does all the proofing.
Mm,
And then she does the covers and stuff like the actual art for the covers. We have an artist that we hire, but she does all the menu and typography and that kind of stuff.
sure.
Um, but I like to say that I write the books and she makes them better because her
Yeah.
developmental editing really adds a lot into them. Yeah, but I will say, yes, the first book was 12,000 words, but it's a 30 book storyline. So
Right.
it's more like a serialized fiction than it is individual books. I try to make each one have its own, where it can stand on its own, but they definitely are part of a continuous series.
Yeah, yeah, that makes total sense. Have you taken advantage of serial fiction websites or serial story websites by any chance?
I do. I read Royal Road a lot because
Okay.
that's there's a lot of lit RPG on there, and that's my preferred genre to read. But I have not written anything for it serialized because I I write, I release a book or two a month, so I don't have enough time to focus on any other projects.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, you have all the time in the world, right? As
Yeah,
we all
well,
do.
with the five kids and the
I'm
yeah.
just teasing. Yeah. No, and so from like a process standpoint, are you generally a plotter? Do you have all of these 60 book plotted out, this long story plotted out, or do you just kind of go right as you go?
No, that's an interesting question. I go back and forth.
Oh,
I
sure. Okay.
sometimes I'm pantsing it, sometimes I'm plotting it. Sometimes my plot is 5 bullet points, sometimes my plot is 3 pages of bullet points. It really depends on my mood, where I'm at in the book, what series I'm writing, because I have 4 different series that we write. And how long it's been since I've written the previous book, because we
Mm,
stagger out releases. Um, a lot of times I'll write a book and then I'll write another book in a different series, or maybe 2 books in 2 different series, and then I got to go back to this first series, so I have to refamiliarize with myself, and then I'll need really good bullet points. But I'm pretty good at pantsing as well, and a lot of times I'll have my bullet points out for how I want to write, and then, as you know, things tend to go off the rails, and then you have 10,000 words of stuff that you didn't even mean to include in the first place.
oh yeah, I definitely understand that very, very deeply. That's definitely how I write. So I'm curious to know how you keep organized with everything. Do you use paper and pencil? Are you keeping track of everything
I use
physically?
Google Drive.
Google Drive. Okay.
Yeah, Google Drive and Microsoft OneDrive. I love both of them, and
Nice.
all of my stuff is in there. I write in Google Drive
Okay.
because I love being able to access it anywhere.
Yeah.
You can do that with Microsoft Office and OneDrive also, but it's a little wonky, and I hate sometimes it not. I've had it where it doesn't save, and then I've lost hours of work, and that's very frustrating. So I
Mm.
don't use OneDrive for that. But I use Google Drive to do all my rough drafts, and then my wife will take them into Word and she'll do all the editing too. But I actually started dictation
Okay.
about 6 books ago, and I dictate now into Word because Word's dictation on its phone is really, really good.
Okay.
But I'll dictate 2,000 words and then immediately copy it into Drive so I don't lose it because
Mm.
I've lost stuff doing that too. So I like to have multiple layers of redundancy so I don't lose anything.
The
Yeah,
whole the dictation thing, I think, is a fascinating concept. I've never tried it. I know it works
yeah.
for a lot of people. So, is that primarily because you like to be up and about, like going for walks, doing dishes? Like, what do you do while you dictate, or do you sit in a chair and it's
Oh no,
just
I
easier to
definitely don't
dictate?
sit.
Okay.
um, it started. I started 2 years ago trying to dictate,
Hmm.
and I was using like the dragon, method where you're like period, quote, open
Yep.
line, new paragraph, and my brain fried trying, and I could not
Yeah.
do it at all. Another author friend of mine told me his process, which is he dictates right into Microsoft Word, and it's just like this solid block of text, and then he takes it right in, and Word has like a really good way of keeping it all separated, and then he takes it in and cleans it up that way. And I started doing that, and it just worked for me.
Hmm.
So now I get like 16 to 20,000 steps in on my days when I get 5 to 7,000 words writing at the same time. And I pace incessantly. I do the dishes, I clean the house. My wife loves it. She's like, "Yeah, this is great." So I do a lot of stuff while I dictate. But it does take retraining your brain to be
Hmm.
able to storytell while talking. And a lot of times you have to just, oh, I messed that up. You just got to barrel on through and get it in cleanup.
Yeah, I bet that's definitely something that's hard to get used to. Wanting to take a pause, fix it, and then keep going just doesn't really
Oh,
make
yeah.
sense from a dictation standpoint because you're just moving forward. It's story. I feel like I've never tried it, but I feel like I could. I've told my
Yeah.
kids lots of part of the reason I started writing in general is just connected to it is I used to tell my sons bedtime stories and just a new story every night. And I don't know, I just make
That's
it up as I
awesome.
go. I probably made up like hundreds of them. And,
Oh,
they
man.
finally said, "Are you going to write these down?" I was like, "Oh, probably. I don't know." And I haven't. Spoiler alert, I haven't. But so
Yeah.
I could dictate. I've just never given it a try. Um, I think possibly because I do lots of loud things.
Oh,
Wow,
yeah.
like mowing the lawn probably won't work for
No, it
dictation
doesn't. No,
or
but
other.
doing the dishes can.
Yes, that's fair. I think the challenge with that is I have six children, almost seven, and
Mm,
more often than not, if I'm present, I'm needed for something. So
yes.
if they
That's
have
why I write
children,
the kids' books actually, because um, when you're constantly interrupted, it's easier to write something that doesn't take as deep focus.
that's fair. Yeah.
And yeah, so that was the big, because the first year that I was really writing as a professional, where I wasn't worried about a job or anything, we did homeschool, and we were constantly interrupted. And
Hmm.
so I needed to write something that was easier plot wise and easier to keep track of mentally, because when you're really, really focused on something and then you have to snap your focus out, sometimes it,
Hmm.
it just like poofs away.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally understand that. So, I mean, you're writing kid stuff, you're having a lot of success with it. Do you think you'll be doing this for longer term? Are you still enjoying writing the kid stuff? Do you
Oh
ever
yeah.
anticipate delving into more complicated adult stuff or not in the future?
Well, my youngest goes to full-time school. We enrolled them in a little private school here in town, and they all get to go to the same school, which is really nice,
Nice.
actually.
That's really nice.
There's like 120 students, so they get to hang out and see each other a lot, which is really cool too.
That's
But
very
my
cool.
youngest starts full-time next year. So when that happens, there's not going to be any kids in the house. So we'll probably consider doing some more longer form books. I love lit RPG. It's my favorite genre. So I've got I'm sure every author does, but I've got pages of book ideas that I want to write that aren't necessarily kids books. But I do love writing the kids books too, because I get to let out that wacky dad humor
Yeah.
that, it's like ingrained in me.
It's just part of you.
Yeah.
All the things you've mentioned, the jokes you put in there totally resonated with I know they'd resonate with my kids because I'm a dad
Yeah.
too. Dumb dad jokes, which make people either laugh or roll their eyes. I get it. Sounds like a blast. I think it's awesome that you found this niche. You're into it. Actually, out of curiosity, these books are considered lit RPG, correct? Kind
Gamelit,
of
technically.
game lit. Okay,
Yeah.
fair enough.
So there's two different, I mean, lit RPG is broken down into like gamelit and lit RPG. Lit RPG, they actually have like system messages where they
Oh,
show
sure.
their
Okay.
stats and their character sheets and stuff like that. Gamelit doesn't necessarily have to have that. This does have a lot of the system stuff in it because it is a Minecraft setting, and so there it goes deep into all of that. They have hearts and hunger bars and all of that, but there's no character sheets or anything. So it's not technically lit RPG, but it is game lit because it's set in video game universe.
So what got you stuck on this genre specifically? I know you mentioned Minecraft at first because your son was interested in Minecraft. You're trying to write a book for him, but why is lit RPG your favorite to read? Are you a gamer? Or have
Well,
you
I
been
was a
in the
gamer.
past?
I was a
Okay.
gamer. Yes, that's it. And then I started having kids, and kids are important, and they take a lot of energy and a lot of focus. And I'd rather spend my time with my kids. So I love gaming, but I love my kids more. And gaming
Hmm.
takes up too much time
Yes,
to
it does.
really, really play, and really, be a gamer. So I kind of I kind of put away the gaming stuff because of having the kids. But I always loved it still. I never stopped, paying attention a little bit here and there to gaming websites and what's all the latest stuff coming out. And I have my favorite franchises that when they come out, I'll play. But I started reading the lit RPG genre, and it gave me all those dopamine fixes that I got from gaming
Yeah.
through the genre. And now I feel like, why would I play a video game when I can read lit RPG and I can get
Yeah.
all the same, progression and character sheets and all that kind of stuff through the books that I read. And my reading is my favorite hobby anyway. So yeah, that's how that started. And there's great authors in the genre. There's a bunch of books constantly coming out, and a bunch of different styles of genres in lit RPG. And so that's where it's at for me.
I'm glad you explained that because I actually had no idea. I've never read lit RPG. I own a
Oh,
couple lit RPG books
yeah,
because
yeah,
I've seen them and thought, oh, maybe I'll give that a try. Purchase
yeah.
them. They're still sitting on my Kindle, which I'll get to eventually, right?
Yeah.
The TBR list, that's outrageous. I will probably die before I read all the books transparently.
Believe me, I know.
But but yeah, I'm glad you explained that because people listening might not know what that is, and it's a great explanation for them. So when you started out with this author career, you didn't expect it to go where it did, and it did move into full time. You're doing very well, which is awesome.
Hmm.
Is there anything that you wish you would have changed at the beginning when you started getting into writing and business aspects of authoring?
Yeah, there's one big one. I wish I'd started earlier.
Okay, fair
Uh,
enough. Yeah.
but now it's there's not a lot that I'd change. Um, I am definitely stuck in the genre that I'm in with the fan base that I have, and that's kind
Sure.
of a little rough because they expect a certain type of product. So I have here, I'll show you real quick. I've got four different series. There's the Accidental Minecraft family,
Okay.
and then after that came out Hatchamob, which is also
Gotcha.
set in Minecraft, and then Kitsune the Minecraft Ninja, which is
Okay.
another Minecraft setting book, and those all did pretty well. So I wanted to write something that wasn't Minecraft. I wanted to branch out a little bit and see if I could capture the readers to reading more stuff. So we wrote this series called Video Game Agents, which you can tell just by the difference in the art style that it's not
Mm,
a Minecraft setting. And this is an original IP. Everything in it is original. There's no callback to any current um, video game world, and it did not perform as well as I wanted it to. And I don't know if it was too far away, from the captured audience that I already had or what, but it ended at 4 books, and I have some plot hooks out there to continue the series in a later date, but I don't get a lot of fans requesting more books in the series, which was really heartbreaking to my wife and I because we put a lot of love into the series, but you got to do what the fans want if you want to be a professional full timer. You have
hmm
to keep on giving the fans what they expect from you.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a challenge because I know there's a lot of hobby authors, and then there's got
Hmm.
the complete business authors, and you've got maybe an amalgamation of both, people that are kind of in between. But again, that's at some point the decision has to be made about where you want to be because there's a lot of authors that write to market and they like doing
Yeah,
that and it works very well for them and that's excellent. And then there's other authors who get sick at the idea of having to write to market, right? Which
yeah.
also is fine, really. It really just comes down to your preferences. Do you have any inclinations or thoughts as to why that didn't perform as well? Is it because it was just so off the wall, or you feel like maybe elements of it didn't match with
I
the
don't
previous
know. I
books?
think so. It's really interesting because it's basically Men in Black, but it's
Hmm
kids instead of men, and it's video game mobs coming out of video games into the real world instead of aliens. So,
Mm,
there's a secret organization and they go in and they fight the monsters and they send it back into video games. So there was definitely that whole video game element to it that we had with the Minecraft stuff, but our readers are just, Minecraft book readers, and that's what they really, really
yeah.
want. In fact, my other series, Kitsune the Minecraft Ninja, it even was a lower performer than my other two series also. And I personally think a lot of it is because in this series, I very much strayed from sticking really hard to Minecraft rules and the Minecraft world. In fact, I never even really mentioned the word Minecraft or a lot of the elements of it. It's just the main character in it was met by one of it. It was a kind of a crossover from one of the other characters in another book, which spawned this series because I really wanted to write a ninja series. Um, so, and even it didn't do as well as I wanted. So it languished at 4 books. Also, I do get a lot of kids asking for more in that series too. There's a lot of like Eastern stuff, Chinese and Japanese lore and folklore mixed into it too. So it's a lot of fun. I get kids asking for that, but it's one that just since we're writing full time, we have to go where the market leads us, and that one just didn't perform as well either.
No, I mean that makes absolute sense, and it actually kind of answers my next question. I was going to ask, how do you prioritize, right? Because you have all
Yeah.
these options. You do always have the option of writing something new, which is great. But how do you decide? Because
Yeah.
you said you do maybe 1 or 2 books a month. How do you know which books to write? Just from your
Well, one of
audience?
the things we do is we have a calendar and we plot out everything.
I
You know,
see. Okay.
because if we don't have
Planning.
deadlines, then that deadline is what really makes the books come out.
Yeah.
We'll put up pre-orders and like, okay, books got to come out, or Amazon's going to cancel our pre-order. So that really holds our feet to the fire to make sure that we are working as hard as we can to get the books out and get the books done.
Makes absolute sense logically, but I am not a planner. So that's something that I mean, I do when I need to. I do plan things, but
Yeah.
I'm very much a fly by the seat of my pants type of
Yeah.
person. So it
I mean,
makes
we
total
do
sense to calendar it
this is
out
our
though.
sole source of income, so
Right.
we really have to run it in that way. Which is, it's fine. We don't mind doing the business stuff. We're not great at it, and there's always room for improvement. But right now, we're just bouncing back and forth between Accidental Minecraft Family and Hatchamob, our two main series. And the Accidental Minecraft Family, the first 30 books is the main plot line, and the book 41 just uploaded today. The last 11 books are all kind of spin-off stories. the main characters met with the video game agents from the VGA series, the organization, and they got hired on to dive back into Minecraft because they eventually make their way out. So they got hired on to dive into Minecraft to rescue other kids that get stuck in the world. So every couple of books is a new plot line, and they wrap up really quick. We've got like a fantasy plot line with elves and dwarves. The latest one is a 3-book plot line that meshes elements of Star Trek, Star Wars, Dune, and Guardians of the Galaxy, because I love all those things too. And I love being able to do that because then I get to like write all these fun, interesting plot lines that I can just do as one-offs. Um, so yeah, that we bounce back and forth between those two series, but the Hatch Mob series is still running major story arcs, while the AMF series is just mini arcs.
Yeah, that makes total sense. It's just, elements of a serial or, I think of there's like thriller series that are written in a similar way, obviously for adults, but kind of like
Yeah.
episodic in nature, even though it's the same characters. It's almost like
Yep.
watching TV episodes only in book form. So, but I mean, I think that works great. And if you're enjoying it, I think that's all that matters. I think it's very impressive that you've got down your process so well done that you can put them out that quickly. Because I know a lot of people
Yeah. Well, the
struggle
kids
with,
expect them.
well, yeah, there's that as well. So do you find that the it's just the fact that you're putting so much out that's you're able to maintain this business, or does your backlist get a lot of attention from this audience as well?
Well, Amazon's constantly changing things, and all my books are on Amazon Kindle Unlimited.
That's
So
fair.
my backlist doesn't perform as well as it did 2 years ago, which is really
Sure.
frustrating. And that's totally an Amazon thing. They're always changing things, so it's hard to like stay afloat. But I definitely get a lot of organic searches and a lot of organic reads. Minecraft is a big keyword that a lot of kids find. A lot of
Yes.
parents find Minecraft books. They just search for that keyword, and boom, we're probably the top 3 out of all the Minecraft authors that are out there, which there's a lot. We're probably in the top 3 in terms of popularity. And that helped. So having the big backlist definitely helps. But we're continuously having to release to keep that backlist up, and keep it floating in the rankings.
Yeah, and I know you mentioned prior to us recording, you thought about potentially finding a broader audience off of Amazon for some of the series that had been published for some time. Because
Yeah.
for those of you listening, if you're not aware, Kindle Unlimited has an exclusivity clause where you're not allowed to take your ebooks outside anywhere else. If they're on Amazon,
Yep.
they're on Amazon. So you thought about potentially taking those elsewhere. Have you ever thought about creating like I know you say you sell your paperbacks directly, but almost like a Pixel 8 ecosystem where you have your own hub that people can buy into or
Yeah.
they can join like a membership or something. Hey, this is totally
You
like
know,
that would totally work
we've
for
thought
this
about it, and
audience.
I'll tell you what, the problem is we're on kind of like this hamster wheel of we have to release books.
Sure, that makes sense.
Otherwise, as it's our sole source of income, once again, everything comes down to that. We have to release the books to keep the income up so that we can, live the life that we have. So taking the time away that we need to implement any other kind of business strategies, it's always a risk.
Yes, that's
And
true.
you have to weigh out, where's the best risk going to go. So there's a lot of amazing ideas I'd love to implement like that. But once again, it's like a risk versus reward thing. And right now we have to focus on one thing at a time.
Yeah,
I
makes
do want
sense.
to take Video Game Agents and Kitsune the Minecraft Ninja. I want to take them wide and see how they go that way, because then I'll have an experiment of seeing how some
Yeah.
wide books go. And Video Game Agents I love because it ties in to our main series, the Accidental Minecraft Family. So maybe we could capture more readers from reading that series and then wanting to find our other books too.
Create a multiverse. A
Exactly.
Pixel 8 multiverse of all of these things. People would love that.
Yeah.
Geek out over that. I mean, the great thing is you have options. You have these decisions you can make, and that's the nice thing about the flexibility with self-publishing is there's just so much flexibility around
Oh, I
with
love
it.
it.
And it's
Yeah,
nice. It's definitely a great time to be able to publish books because I'm pretty sure
it is.
15, 20 years ago definitely did not look this way.
Yep.
So,
I tell people that this is probably the best time in human history to try and publish a book.
Hmm.
because you have so many ways that you can do it and find success.
Hmm.
My 14-year-old daughter actually wrote a book last year called The Princess
Nice.
and the Gamer, which is a Minecraft book, and it came out, and I shoved it out to all my fans, and they all read it, and so she made a good amount of money from that, which she
Nice.
immediately put into a Roth IRA, which that she's years ahead of me
Smart
on
thing.
that regard. I
Yes.
appreciate her logical mindedness with that, but I've got fans constantly asking for her to write the next series or the next book in the series too, and it is the best time in human history to become an author and try to self-publish and write a book.
Absolutely. So there you go. That's hope that's encouraging people listening. There's definitely so many good ways to, we didn't even go into all the different ways of publishing. We talked specifically about
Yeah,
your way, but there are a lot of different ways.
there
Um,
are.
so just keep your eyes open and write the book. Just do it.
Yep,
Get it out
yep.
there. There's
Go
an
to
audience for it.
NaNoWriMo. That's what got me going.
Yeah.
It gives
Yes.
you a good kick in the butt to get that first 50,000 words out. And in fact, that's how my daughter wrote her book too. I got
Yeah.
her in NaNoWriMo and she put it
There
out.
you go.
Yeah.
Ironically, I work better outside of NaNoWriMo. I know that sounds really silly, but there's something about procrastination mindset when I get into
Yeah.
NaNoWriMo. Without it, I can write very,
Oh
very
man.
well. Put me in NaNoWriMo, I'm like, I feel like procrastinating. Doesn't make any sense logically at all. But
Yeah.
in any case, I appreciate you joining today. It's been an excellent conversation. Before we end here, where can people find more information about you and your books?
Pixelatebooks.com. Pixelate spelled just like it sounds, pixelatebooks.com. You can get from there to find all of our stuff. And also you can just look on Amazon for the Accidental Minecraft Family
Hmm.
or Hatch a Mob or Video Game Agents, or Kitsune the Minecraft Ninja, and find us there. And we use the A plus content so you can go through and see a bunch of stuff on our books, that lead to
Nice.
other books and talk a little bit about us and all that. But our website, pixelatebooks.com, is the best place to start. You can even buy the books direct from there. If you buy, we only have book ones of all of our series, but if you buy it direct, you can get it. It'll come autographed, personalized. You get a bookmark and some water bottle stickers and some other cool stuff that we like to throw in too for our readers.
Very cool.
And just so you know, we also even have a dyslexia adapted version of
Nice.
the Exo Minecraft Family Book One that has been getting some positive feedback to. We sell a bunch of those every single day, and it's only in paperback form.
That's very cool. I know a lot of people appreciate that. I've seen people doing that more
Yeah,
recently. So, well, very good.
great.
Thank you so much for your time. This has been a great conversation.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I had a lot of fun. I love getting to talk books and getting to talk Pixelate.
Oh, yes, I'm sure we could go for a lot longer.
Yeah.
But, thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right. I hope you found that helpful and insightful. When working with our audiences, this is one of those conversations where you think always do what they want, but be aware of your audience, be aware of what they're looking for and what they like. And, if it's within your means and schedule and time to do that, then great. I think it's awesome that Mr. Pixel 8 Books publishes a book a month. I think that's amazing. Granted, his books are a little bit shorter, but still, I mean, it's the editing, the post-publication work, publication work, all of that has to go into it. So I'm impressed with their timing, and he has a great team to help him. So I think that's great. In any case, next week we'll be talking to Sebastian, just single name Sebastian, about getting into the writing flow. We talk about his experience getting into writing, why he started, the challenges he experienced while writing his first and second books, and what he's up to today in terms of publishing. So it's a very enlightening conversation, particularly for someone who may have wanted to or not thought they were going to be writing a book for a very, very long time, and then are in the later years of their life deciding to write. So you'll want to stick around for that conversation next week. Appreciate you listening today, and I look forward to it. Have a great week.